Today we'll be discussing some of the month's top stories from the InQuire newspaper, and joining me today is the newspaper news editor, Tarini Tiwari. I'm Max Halton, and you're watching InQuire Insight. So welcome to a rather dystopian edition of InQuire Insight, Tarini. I guess start off by asking, how are you dealing with everything that's going on?
It's been okay. It's been definitely overwhelming. I think being an international student has an additional level of chaos because flying back to uni meant accepting that I might not be going home for Christmas and
Right.
now possibly not even for spring break.
Okay, well, I wanted to just start off by speaking about one of your articles in this edition of the newspaper, specifically the Decolonized UKC shuts down over summer piece.
There was a sudden kind of radio silence from Decolonized UKC, and then obviously at the end of May, George Floyd gets murdered. And it was very surprising that while the university was putting out statements of solidarity, they weren't mentioning this really major organization who's worked a lot for BAME Voices on campus. And then a little bit of digging, we saw that they've shut down, and there was just nothing from anyone. We would reach out asking, do you want to talk about why you shut down? And they said it's a really sensitive subject. And it was just increasingly bizarre.
Yeah, there was so much mystery surrounding it and a lack of information. And I went on the website and they used the quote that they were going to redirect their energy to survive and thrive and not resist appropriation. What do you think that means?
When they said a resist appropriation, that they were referencing the way the university basically parades them around. The university did a lot of promotion for their book launch, actually. It was almost patronizing the way that they would treat Decolonized UKC. But at the end of the day, when they went to the university with a call to action and said, this is what actually needs to change. These are the parts of your curriculum that are not diverse at all. And this is how it's really disproportionately affecting students of color or students from disadvantaged backgrounds. They just wouldn't get a response.
Do you think that the resources that Decolonized UKC have produced are adequate for now, allowing the university to progress as a racially diverse and aware university? Or do you think that resources need to be made on a continuous basis as society changes and as racial issues take different forms?
And I think that's what the ADLN is aiming to replace in some capacity. And are very much, they've made very clear they wouldn't be where they are if not for Decolonized UKC laying the groundwork. But basically giving a place for racial minorities to speak out about the injustices they're facing and encounter people who are experiencing the same things. But at the same time, that can only go so far.
The Independent broke the news that the government made no estimate of how the hospitality sector would be affected by the 10 p.m. curfew. Apart from obviously hours out of the working day being taken out for pubs and revenue being taken away, do you think it's also affecting them because people are less likely to go to the pub before 10 p.m.? People don't want to go to the pub.
It has a major impact as people return to work, because over the summer it's a slightly different schedule that you're going through. But now when people are returning to work, getting off work at maybe 8 p.m., getting home, leaving their stuff and saying, let's go to the pub. You're there at what, 8:45? And you're thinking, well, okay, I can have a couple drinks and then out I go again. So you're often thinking, what's the point? I may as well just pick up some drinks and stay home. It doesn't fully make sense to me. I don't want to be misquoted to think that I don't agree with lockdown restrictions. I 1000% agree. I don't think that this is actually going to help.
The Goodwill Scheme stirs up students article.
Yeah. Okay. I like that one.
I just wanted to ask, first of all, if you don't mind me asking, did you receive any compensation?
I did. Yeah. I will be getting, I've filled in the form, I think sometime in November, getting £80.
Okay.
Which as an international student, paying £16,200. I was like, 80. Of course, I think the highest you can get for undergrad is 120.
Right.
But I know people who missed everything. I know someone on my course who had nothing and they've gotten 80. So it's almost operating at random.
The Vice Chancellor said that the funds for the scheme actually came from the salaries that they had saved on during the strikes.
Yeah.
And then he went on to say how the university actually couldn't have made any change during the strikes because the strikes were due to a national dispute. But do you think that the university could have made more of a kind of effort to make changes to other issues surrounding the strikes? Like
months ago, a former member of the union, so I can't name them because they're no longer protected, but a member of staff at the university had made incredibly clear that there's been a massive increase in university staff having to get mental health treatment for overwork. That they're working 40-hour weeks in person, and then in addition to that, taking work home. There's not enough staff per modules. Everyone's marking way too many essays. It's chaos for them. And I learned last week in my drama workshop that there's still a 14% gender pay gap. All female staff at the university is paid 14% less than their male counterparts. And it was very bittersweet for me, and I think for a lot of students at InQuire who had been following and working on all of the strike pieces, to know that these cuts in salary are what are paying us. I think that was a tough pill to swallow, because yeah, we do feel like we were cheated out of our tuition, of course, but at the same time still support the strike efforts when you understand just how bad the situation's gotten for them. So yeah, I think it's kind of, we're called out either way. The only people who have really won out are the university.
So the front page article titled "Students Speak Out, the Government is Not Working for Us." Essentially, surrounding the fact that the government have neglected university students and just young people in general. I wanted to ask, first of all, do you think that the lack of guidance and the lack of acknowledgement to university students and young people is kind of intentional almost, because they want to shift the blame onto university students?
This is what I've been highlighting in a lot of articles that writers are doing about COVID-19. I'm like, mention this weird paradox. Young people are the most likely to follow lockdown measures. Generally, internationally, more left-wing people have been seen to follow the measures more stringently, which is strange because it's coming out of an incredibly right-wing government. So it's a weird paradox, but I think it's because we're all just doing our best and just want this to be over.
The article also speaks about how Matt Hancock has said he can't rule out the possibility that they're going to basically make university students stay in their university cities over Christmas. Do you think that this shouldn't even be considered a possibility?
I personally think he should have issued an apology for even insinuating that that was an option for students. I think you can't promote the importance of higher education, insist that everything's going back to normal, insist that, schools and higher education institutes and workplaces have to reopen, and then when those are followed, threaten young people. I think the slightly more understandable alternative is moving everything online before Christmas, minimize the risk before students go home of transmitting something to their families. It makes it easier to enjoy Christmas with your family, knowing that you've been isolating. keeps everyone safe, but by no means can they or will they keep everyone here over the holidays.
Mhm.
If they did that, it sounds like dramatic to say, but it is a human rights violation because it's not legally binding to keep students on university accommodation.
But thank you for joining me and speaking to me. If any of you want more information or more news, visit the InQuire website at www.inquirelive.co.uk. I've been Max Halton, and thank you for watching.